Madam President and members, thank you very much. Some of you may recall the late Warren Zevon in a song entitled Lawyers, Guns, and Money. A couple of the lines are, I was gambling in Havana and I took a little risk. Send lawyers, guns, and money. Well, the Minnesota Vikings came in here about 3 months ago taking a little risk. They believed that if they put a sufficient effort together that they could get us to do what we want them to do. And we don't know that that's the case yet, but it is certainly appearing to me like they have a pretty good chance of making that happen. And I'm referring, of course, in particular to what we saw earlier today that Senator Ortman so eloquently referred to, when all of a sudden people who had taken votes that I think were in good conscience in an attempt to do some things that they believed were right were very quickly turned around by the presence of lawyers, guns, and money. And before you get upset, of course, the guns is symbolic. It's the title of the song. The point is, the pressure folks came in, got the job done. You know, I occasionally lose my head and don't speak with decorum when I'm talking to folks, and I've used the term country club Republican and the term limousine liberal. And some folks in the media have asked me, what do you mean by that? Well, let me explain what I mean by that. What I mean is that I really think we kind of now have a couple of different kinds of folks within my party. And I think there are those like me who I know many of you have vehement disagreements with me philosophically, and that's fine. I respect people who disagree with me, and I respect those who have firmly held convictions and are true to them, even if they disagree with me. But the one thing about me I would like to think is, though you may be irritated by what I say at times, that I do the very best I can to be consistent in applying what I believe. I'm a limited government conservative. I wear that label proudly. And what I mean by country club Republican is those who are willing to side with the big business interests to give them a subsidy or take care of them when it means forsaking your limited government principles. Lawyers, guns, and money. It's sad. It's really sad. Because, you know, the person out there who owns a factory and employs 2 or 3 or 5 or 8 or 10 people, they can't buy lawyers, guns, and money. They're just out there doing their job, paying their employees, producing a good or a service that is important to all of us. And they don't have the kind of voice here that the country club Republicans do. Now let me try to appeal to the Paul Wellstone in some of you. Senator Marty and I agree on very little politically, but one thing that I do know about Senator Marty is he says what he means and he means what he says. Therefore, I regard him a friend and I respect him tremendously for that. What I really have trouble with is those who presume to espouse the same viewpoints that Senator Marty presumes, or excuse me, that he actually does espouse and adhere to, but they give in to the lawyers, guns, and money. Whether it's big labor or the big business folks that they hang out with or whoever it might be, they're thinking about the executive that called them, the CEO of a big corporation, or whomever it may be. They're not thinking of the mother who is at home with 2 children while dad is gambling the paycheck away. I always thought that's who liberals thought about. Kind of unfortunate that it seems like those folks aren't being talked about here today. That's a little disappointing to me. This gambling's a mess. Oh, I know what you're thinking, Thompson. You claim to be kind of a libertarian. Shouldn't people be able to do what they want to do? Absolutely they should. And if you want to start a card club with you and 3 of your friends in your garage and play $1,000 a hand poker, I don't care. I really don't. But I'm telling you, it is an insidious relationship when the government becomes dependent upon that revenue stream. And if we pass this bill tonight, and if Governor Dayton signs it into law, which we know that he will, That's exactly what we're doing. We are cementing and expanding and increasing a relationship that is ripe for corruption. When you have the regulator literally dependent on a revenue stream from the regulated, it is a recipe for graft and corruption. And we ought to be ashamed of ourselves if we do that. I have to say the obligatory, I'm a Vikings fan, right? Forgot to wear my purple tie today, but I really am. And for me, it's not obligatory. I truly am. And as I said earlier, had Senator Howe's amendment gone on this bill, I would vote for final passage, even though, frankly, that doesn't excite me because I'm very passionate about the, negating the charter provision in Minneapolis. But I'd have sucked it up because the nature of this business is compromised. You take some things you don't like. But I can't live with the gambling. I mean, seriously. As Senator Hand pointed out, the data show that it is the second most regressive tax that there is next to tobacco. We are literally redistributing wealth from the middle and the lower middle and the lower class to millionaires and billionaires. I admire millionaires and billionaires. I don't think they should be punished with the tax code, but by gosh, we shouldn't take money from other folks and redistribute it to them. Art Rolnick, no screaming conservative by any stretch of the imagination, has said that the economic benefits from building these stadiums is illusory. It's just not there. It just doesn't work. It ignores the substitution effect, the fact that if the Vikings were to leave, the people maybe would go to a Gopher game instead, or go out for a more expensive dinner instead, or take in the arts instead. So while it's hard to argue with the notion that visiting player salaries probably would not come in here, the vast majority of the money that goes into the Vikings would go into this state anyway. So let me appeal to the limited government conservatives in this room that run under the Republican label, and the good-hearted liberals whom I may disagree vehemently with, but I truly respect your concern for the poor, for the middle class, for those who don't have it as well, that are not as well off as the people who play football for the Minnesota Vikings or own the Minnesota Vikings. Please, let's do the right thing and vote no.